Radhe Radhe to everybody. Dhyanamoolam Gurormurti Pujamulam Gurorpadam Mantramulam Gurorvakyam Bhaktimulam Gurorkripa Yasyaikani Shvasitakalamathāvalambya Jivanti loma vilaja Jagadandanatha Vishnur Mahan Sa Ihayasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Namah Kamalnabhaya Namah Kamalmaline Namah Kamalpadaya Namaste Kamale Kshana Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo vai Vedanscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tagvangha Devamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukchurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. In the second chapter, we learned many important basic points of Hindu philosophy and philosophy of the Gita. After Arjun spoke for the whole first chapter, outlining his confusion, then Shri Krishna started explaining why he should fight the war. First, he explained about the eternity and divinity of the soul. This is called Sankhya philosophy, how we have to be able to distinguish between our true divine self and our temporary material body and the physical material world that it's related to. Then he explained about karma, how if you perform good karma, you're rewarded by getting a better destiny in your next life. And if you did a lot of good karma, you could go temporarily to Swarg, which is also a Mayic place, and nobody goes to Swarg for eternity. It's a temporary reward. You end up leaving there and coming back here. If you perform bad karma, then you'll get a worse destiny in your next life. And if you did a lot of bad karma, you could have to go to Narak, which is also temporary. You serve your sentence in Narak, and then you come back here. These are the three areas in this Mayic existence. Swarg, Mrityulok, where we are, and Narak. All three are material places. All three exist for as long as the universe exists, but we know the universe is temporary. God dissolves the universe. So when that dissolves, then heaven, earth, and hell also dissolve. Swarg, Mrityulok, and Narak. God's divine abode is beyond all of that. He's beyond the material energy. He's beyond good and bad. So he's beyond Swarg and Narak. Then he explained about Karma Yoga, that whereas both good and bad actions are binding because they cause a person to be reborn, in fact, the binding nature of our actions is because of our attachment. It's not the physical act itself which is binding. This is feeding back a little bit. It's not the physical act itself which is binding. It's our attachment in the action. Attachment in the action means, put simply, we believe there is happiness in this world, and by performing this action, I'm going to get happiness. Could be a bad action, could be a good action. In both cases, it's binding because my attachment is in the world. I'm attached to the outcome of that action because my hope is that by doing that, I'm going to get happiness. Any such action is binding, which means it multiplies our attachments. Because whenever we think of something as a source of happiness, we become more attached to it. And that attachment itself is the bondage because it becomes the cause of our rebirth. Because of our attachment, we have to be reborn and we have to get the results, good or bad, of all of our karma. But Karma Yoga means performing good actions without such attachment. Or you could say with attachment in God. If someone can perform actions without attachment in the world, or without attachment in those actions, then those actions do not bind them. In order to do this, we have to have our mind free from this erroneous belief that there is happiness in the world. As long as our mind believes that there is happiness in the world, why would it ever give up desiring that happiness? I explained to you that it's natural to want happiness because we're a part of God and God is happiness, so it's our nature. It's the nature of every ansh to desire his anshi. Thus, it's our nature to desire God, or it's our nature to desire perfect happiness. So desiring happiness is not wrong, it's not ignorant, but desiring happiness from the world is ignorant because the world is mayic. And Maya has these always combinations of opposites. Good and bad, beautiful and ugly, night and day, comforting and painful. You can never have only the good in this world. You have to have good with bad in varying amounts. It's always changing. So there's no real perfect happiness in this world. It's only in God. So don't stop desiring happiness. Just desire happiness from God instead of from the world. Change the field in which you are searching. If you're digging a well because you need water, and you try 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet in the same location, eventually you may say, okay, I don't think there's any water here. I've dug down 200 feet, 300 feet. Let me try over here. You'll try a new location, right? But you don't give up your need for water. You still need the water, so you have to keep digging somewhere. We don't give up our desire for happiness, ever. It's impossible. We just have to change the field. If you have one business and that business keeps losing money, how long will you keep following that business? Eventually you change your business. Oh, this seems to be more profitable. Let me try starting that business. In the same way, you've tried and failed to find perfect happiness in this world, so don't give up that business of looking for perfect happiness. Just change the field. Now, start looking for perfect happiness from God. Then you can do Karma Yoga because your attachment will be in God instead of in the world, and you'll continue performing all of your worldly actions, looking after all of your responsibilities, but without attachment. Then you're free from that bondage of karma. This is Karma Yoga of the Gita. The second chapter ends with the shlok, Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva syamantakale cha brahma nirvana mrichhati. Shri Krishna says, the one who can do that and who perfectly establishes his mind in God gets God realization. Perfectly establishes his mind in God means having your mind 100% attached to God. Right now we may be partially attached to God, but we have to become 100% attached to Him. Then he says, you attain a divine state. The moment it happens, Esha Brahmi Sthiti, you get a divine state of God realization the moment your mind is fully attached to God or fully surrendered to God. And then, when you leave the body, antakale, he says, at the end, when you leave your body, then you enter into a divine state of blissfulness forever. End of the second chapter. Arjun begins the third chapter with a question. Shri Krishna, if this knowledge of God is what is the highest thing, and such knowledge is higher than performing karma in this world, as you have said, in fact, he's quoting Shri Krishna, he said this in the second chapter, then why are you urging me to do this horrible karma of fighting this war? I've already explained to you why it was Arjun's duty to fight the war. I compared it to someone who's a police officer who has to uphold the laws of the society and enforce those laws by force if necessary. If someone is not listening to a verbal warning and will not stop breaking the law, then the police can use force. If someone is endangering someone else, the police may even kill that person. They don't want to, that's not their first option, but as a last resort, they may have to do something like that. Arjun was in such a situation where Duryodhan had to be stopped. It was his duty, it was Arjun's duty to uphold Dharma by stopping an adharmi like Duryodhan. And they exhausted all the other options. There was only one option remaining, the use of force. So they had to fight the war, and it was Arjun's duty to fight this war, just as it is a police officer's duty to stop a criminal by force if necessary. So Shri Krishna had explained to him, you have to fight this war. It would be a bad action on your part to walk away right now. And it's a good action if you perform your duty, which happens to be fighting the war. So here Arjun is saying, but at the same time, you're telling me that the ultimate thing is to know God. And that's a much higher thing than just performing karma in this world. So why are you still urging me to fight this war? In other words, he's not saying this, but practically what he's asking is, why can't I just walk off this battlefield, go into isolation somewhere, maybe up in a cave in some mountain, and just think of you all the time and purify my mind and get God realized? Why can't I do that? Why are you urging me to fight this war? Remember that Arjun is a God-realized saint already he's making Shri Krishna explain all of these points for our benefit, because these are the types of things we would ask. These are the doubts we would have. In fact, Shri Krishna pretty much explained everything in the second chapter. The whole rest of the Gita is going into more depth in all of those topics. So here we're going to learn more about the secret of karma. What is karma? What is akarma? Akarma meaning performing actions without getting the bondage of that action. So, how does Shri Krishna explain this? He says, Nahi kaschit chanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krit. Point number 1. The human mind never rests even for a second. Thus, you are always performing karma. Sharir yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmana. Point number 2. If you were to try to cease all physical action, you would not be able to support your own body, and your body would die. Na karmana manarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati. Point number 3. You do not attain a state of perfection simply by ceasing all karma. And by physically renouncing, you do not attain anything. Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasa smaran Indriyairthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. Point number 4. If someone were to renounce everything physically, leave the world, leave their family, leave their house, their possessions, their money, and go in the jungle somewhere, but Yaaste manasa smaran. In their mind, they were dwelling on all that they had given up. Then vimudhatma. That individual is a fool, and mithyachara. It's hypocrisy. He's renouncing from the outside, and from the inside, he's thinking about, he's doing smaran of all the things that he gave up. Like you leave everything, you go to the jungle, and you're sitting under some tree somewhere, and you're supposed to be meditating on Shri Krishna, and instead you're thinking, oh, I used to have a nice soft bed to sleep in. I used to have good friends. We'd get together, have nice dinner parties. Oh, I used to drive a nice car. Now I walk barefoot in the jungle. I used to have good food, rasgulla whenever I wanted. Now I eat roots and berries to stay alive. That act of remembering all of those things means that's where you are. You're as much in the world as you were when you were living in the world. And actually, if you really look at it, you can never leave the world. As Shri Krishna said, you can't even keep your body alive if you try to stop all activity. So being in the jungle and needing a certain amount of calories and protein and vitamins and minerals to keep your body alive, how is that different from living in Austin, Texas, and needing a certain amount of calories and vitamins and minerals and protein? How is it different? The one living in the jungle also has to do something for his survival. Even if it's going and begging at someone's door, he has to do something. And you also have to do something. What's the difference? You could say the difference is that individual has fewer distractions. Okay, that we can accept. He has fewer distractions, yes. But how many people in that situation would be able to always stay in remembrance of God. I like to tell the story of before I ever met Kripaluji Maharaj, before I knew anything about Hinduism, I still had an interest in spiritual things. And I used to, I think 2 or 3 times, I tried this thing where you go out somewhere isolated, someone drops you off, and they come back 5 days later. And for those, it's actually 4 full days, 5 nights. For all of that time, you're supposed to stay within a 10-foot circle, not eat anything, and just drink water. You bring a few gallons of water, and you're supposed to, because you have no distractions, no complications, nothing to do except sit there, you're supposed to get some spiritual insight. But do you know what I spent the majority of my time thinking about? I am no good at fasting. My blood sugar drops and I start thinking about food. I was thinking about food the whole time. What am I, when these 4 days pass, what am I going to eat? What's the first thing I'm going to eat? I'd make my whole list. Okay, I'm going to have pancakes with maple syrup. I'm going to have mashed potatoes. So this is exactly what Shri Krishna is talking about. Leave everything physically and your mind is perfectly in the world, just as much as if you were in the world, sitting on your couch in your living room. Almost no difference. So there's no value to such a thing. The mind has to be attached to God, and that can be accomplished by going to the jungle, if you're that renounced mentally as well, if you're not going to long for all the things that you've left behind. But it can also be achieved while living in the family, in the world. Because, see, here's a secret of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means remembering God all the time while you perform your duties. So people always wonder, how is it possible when the involvement of the mind is required for any karma, whether you're adding numbers or writing computer code or managing an office or running your business, whatever it is, it requires the involvement of your mind. And if your mind is involved in that, how can you be thinking of God? You can't, not consciously. But there's a deeper part of our mind, you can say, the superficial part, that's analyzing and doing whatever work that we're involved in. But there's a deeper part of your mind where your attachments live. Deep in your heart, you never forget you're a mother if you're a mother. You never forget that you're a father if you have children. It's like part of your identity. Even though you may not be consciously thinking of your children, they're there in your heart. It's like, do you ever forget, even when you're completely absorbed in some task, do you ever forget if you're a man or a woman? No, you don't. Yet this is a very superficial part of our identity, isn't it? Naivastri napumaneshu. Shvetashvatropanishad says, you are neither man nor woman, because soul has no gender. Your body in this life may be a male body, you may have a female body, but that can change from life to life. We've all been born as men, we've all been born as women. Then this is really a very superficial part of our identity, that we happen to be a certain gender in this life. Do you ever forget that you're a human being? No. Yet that's also very superficial. It's only your body, right? Your body is not you. You're the soul. We forget we're the soul and we identify with our physical body. I'm a human being. I'm Gujarati. I'm Bengali. I'm Punjabi. I'm American. I'm Canadian. These are the things that we always remember. Yet it's not really who we are. Add to that our relationships. I am a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm somebody's son, I'm somebody's daughter. It's so ingrained in our heart, these deep attachments to our body, our ethnicity, our family, that we never forget, even when our conscious mind is deeply absorbed in some activity. So it means that you're doing karma yoga in a kind of reverse way. Your mind is always in the people that you're attached to, no matter what physical work you're doing in the world. What we need to do is develop a way to keep our mind always attached to Krishna, no matter what work we're doing in the world. And this is only possible if we make him a member of our family. It's our family we remember, right? So make him a member of your family. He is your son, he is your husband, he's your best friend, your brother, something like that. And you have to develop a loving attachment to him by daily practice of the meditation I talked to you about yesterday, where you close your eyes and visualize his presence, visualize his form, and think of your eternal relationship to him, seeing him look at you in a very accepting, warm, loving way. By practicing this meditation, he goes deeper into your heart. You're developing an attachment to him. And when that attachment grows to a certain point, then he remains in your heart all the time, no matter what work you're doing. This is true karma yoga. What it means is that none of us are 100% karma yogis all the time. Only a saint is 100% karma yogi all the time. Because na chalati bhagavat padar vinda lavanimi shardhamapiyah savaishnavagriya. Bhagavatam. A true devotee of God, his or her mind never leaves the lotus feet of their beloved God even for a fraction of a second. That is a true devotee of God. And that is only a saint. Only a saint's mind never diverts from God even for a second. So we're not real 100% karma yogis, but we try, we practice. We take some time every day to cease all worldly activities and only remember Krishna and do this meditation that I introduced you to. And the rest of the day we also try to feel that connection with him. Even though we're busy in all of our activities, we try to feel a connection with Krishna the same way that we feel a connection to our family. He has to become more important, meaning he has to become our biggest attachment. Don't think about giving anything up because your mind will revolt against that. Just add more attachment to Krishna and let him take care of the rest. People think that, it must be so difficult to become God-realized. I'm a family person. To get God-realized, I have to get my mind 100% attached to Krishna. How will I do that? I'm so attached in my family. I'm so attached in so many worldly things. Just start. That's all you have to do. Start, make the effort, let Krishna into your heart a little bit, then he takes over. In our Shastras, it is told that it's like this. Let's say a beggar comes to your house, and it's a very hot day. He's had nothing to eat or drink all day, and he knocks on your door and he asks, "Can you please give me something to eat and drink?" You say, "Sure." Come back with something for him to eat and drink. Then he says, it's so hot out and I'm so tired. Can I just come inside in the entryway of your house to get out of the sun and rest here for a little bit? Sure, you invite him in. After a few minutes, he says, I'm really feeling exhausted. Would it be okay if I went in your bedroom and slept in your bed? Oh, okay, sure. So you let him in. When he wakes up after a couple of hours, he says, you're a very generous person, but you've been living in this house your whole life. Why don't you let me own your house for some time? It's like the saying in English, if you give someone an inch, they may take a mile. Shri Krishna just gets a little bit inside your heart and he expands your love for him automatically. Just let him in and see what happens. Don't give up right from the start. Oh, I have so far to go. How will I ever get my mind attached to him? Just start, right? Do something. We have to get from here to there. There's no other way. It's like, it seems difficult, but if there's no other option, what are you going to do? You know what the option is? The other option, if we don't attach our mind to Krishna, the other option is be reborn in this world again and keep going through more of the same. So, we have to do it. Just start. That's all. If you have 100 miles to walk, it may seem insurmountable, but just start walking and see what happens. Take a few steps in the right direction at least. You never know how long it will take you to get there. You may surprise yourself. The main point is, it is the mind that has to be attached to Shri Krishna. And that attachment depends on our understanding that we're related to him. He is perfect happiness. It is not about physical renunciation. Physical renunciation may help you if it's done in the right way, meaning you may simplify your life. That's fine. But God realization or following the path to God does not require someone to leave everything. If you were going to follow the path of yoga or the path of gyan, it would be another story. Those paths require you to renounce everything first before you can even take the first step on the path. However, as I told you on the very first day, I'm explaining the philosophy of the Gita as it relates to the path of bhakti, because the path of bhakti is the only path for Kali Yuga. And the path of bhakti does not require renunciation from the outset. In fact, it never requires physical renunciation. The path of bhakti requires you to gradually transfer the attachment of your mind from the world to God. Stop looking for happiness in the world and start looking for it from God. Start. It's a process. You have to begin, and it gradually progresses. Furthermore, Shri Krishna says, Lokesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Arjun, previously in the Vedas, I had already described two ways of nishtha. Nishtha means that state of having your mind perfectly in God all the time. He says one way is being a sannyasi, where you also physically renounce everything, and you're not involved in family or anything like that. You live as a total sannyasi, but you're in the state of nishtha. Your mind is in God all the time. And the other way I described that you could do nishtha is being involved in the world, having a family, having a job, having all of these responsibilities, but being in the state of nishtha, having your mind in God all the time. And we have many, many examples in our history of saints who lived both lifestyles. You have saints like Shukdev Ji, Shaunakadik Paramahans, Sanakadik Paramahans, who were total sannyasis, completely renounced from the world, and their mind was in God all the time. But you have even more examples of saints who were karma yogis. They were married with children, with jobs. King Janak is one example. Shri Krishna even mentions King Janak, that Janak attained that state of perfection, yet he was a king. Ambarish was a king, yet he was a God-realized saint. Dhruv and Prahlad, although they were God-realized at a very young age, they also got married and had kids and ruled kingdoms. The gopis, who are such elevated saints that even Brahma desires their foot dust, and Uddhav, the foremost Jnani saint of Dwapar Yuga, desires their foot dust. They were also grihasthis. They were married with children. They lived a simple life of family responsibilities, yet they're considered to be the highest of saints. What all of this means is that if one is interested in attaining God, they should not first think about, oh, but I have to leave everything. This is not the philosophy of the Gita. The first thing they have to think about is, how do I get my mind attached to God? Now, why is Shri Krishna explaining all of this to Arjun? Because he was asking, why should I fight this war? So, one thing Shri Krishna explained is, Arjun, leaving all of your duties, walking away from all of this, does not guarantee that you're going to be able to think of God all the time. You might as well just stay here and perform your duty and think of God. And secondly, yadyada charati shreshthas tatta devetaro janah sayat pramanam kuruto lokas tadanu vartate. Arjun, people imitate the actions of other great people. So you know what? If you were to walk away from this war, ignoring your duty, how will that affect other people? How will that affect the world? The world will see your example and they'll think, oh, I'll also abandon all of my responsibilities and go to the jungle. Then what will be the state of the world? Although, yastvatmaratirevasya datmatrip tascha manava atmanyeva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. Although a God-realized saint has no need to do any karma of any kind for his own self, yet saints still perform actions. And Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptamavaptavyam varta eva cha karmani. Shri Krishna says, Arjun, I have nothing to attain. I'm God. There's nothing worth attaining that is not already mine. I have no reason to do anything, yet I also perform karma. God performs karma. And God-realized saints perform karma, although they have no reason to perform karma. Why do they have no reason? Because they're already blissful. God Himself is bliss. Raso vaisa. One who himself is the form of bliss lacks any motivation to perform any action. We have the motivation to perform actions because we don't have happiness. That's what motivates our every single karma. Once we attain God and we get perfect happiness, then why would we keep performing actions? All of our actions were to get that happiness. And God has always had that happiness. He is that happiness. So God has no reason to perform any action, and a God-realized saint has no reason to perform any action. They don't need anything. Why would they do anything? Yet, varta eva cha karmani, Shri Krishna says, I do perform actions. Why? For the good of the world. He does the biggest karma of all. He creates this whole universe, not for himself. Some people think, oh, lokavattu leela kaivalyam. It's like a joke in the Brahma Sutra. God created this universe for His own amusement. You know, like, let's say there's a king and the king has so many responsibilities that he's always stressed out. So he decides, I'm going to make a nice, beautiful park with lots of greenery and flowers and nice walking paths. So when I become stressed, I'll go there and I'll get some relaxation. Is that why God made this world? Thinking that when I get stressed out, I'll have a nice place to go and visit? There's no stress in His divine abode. Everything is perfect. And this world is the exact opposite. So why would He come here for His own amusement? Or why would He create this universe for His own amusement? He creates this universe for us. Because we're under Maya, we're not experiencing Him. And during pralay, when everything is dormant, we're basically in a coma. We're totally inactive. And there's no use existing like that. God sees us in that state, thinks, if I create the universe again, then these souls will become active, and I can give them knowledge through Vedas, through Gita. I can also visit to remind them that I am their goal. And then they can follow the path of bhakti and attain me. This is why He creates the world. So imagine, such a big karma He's doing on our behalf, so much effort, because once He creates the world, and we're all born here, then He also has to keep track of our karma. Talk about a thankless task. Imagine if you were given a pen and paper and somehow you had the ability to know what someone else was thinking, and you had to keep track of everything that person thought for a whole day. You'd be exhausted by the end of that day because our minds never stop. You wouldn't even be able to keep up. But God doesn't just have one person to keep track of. He has unlimited souls to keep track of, and He keeps track of their every karma, of every moment of their entire life, not only in this lifetime, but for uncountable lifetimes. He's doing all of that for us. So you see, God is doing so much karma. He even comes and visits this earth, takes avatar. We're going to learn about His avatar tomorrow, when He descends here on the earth planet and performs many other actions, killing demons, playing with His playmates, stealing butter. He does so many different kinds of actions. Yet He has no reason to perform those actions for Himself. He's doing it all for us. Saints are the same. Once a saint has attained God, there's nothing left for that saint to do. The saint could just lie and remain absorbed in bliss and never do anything and be totally fine. But saints also perform actions because they want to help us attain what they have attained. Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj always used this analogy. He said, when you're making ghee, you have butter and you want to make it into ghee, you heat it, and all the impurity in the butter, the heat makes it go away. But while it's being heated, as the impurities bubble out of it, it makes a sound, pat, 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 pat. As it reaches the state of purity, it becomes more quiet, pat, 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 and then it stops. It becomes quiet, and even it doesn't matter how much you heat it, it doesn't make any more sound. This is like a soul becoming God realized. Once you reach that state of purity, you have no reason to do anything. You become quiet, like the ghee. But then, if you make you roll out a roti and put it in the ghee for like a kachi puri, put it in there, what happens? Again, the ghee makes noise. But now why is it making noise? Not for itself, but to cook the puri. Once the puri is cooked, you take it out, the ghee again becomes quiet. Just like that, saints perform actions for us to get us to God, not for themselves. So Arjun, I want you to perform the action of fighting this war to set an example for people that they should also perform their duties carefully. They cannot see your inner state, is your mind in God or not. but they can see your physical actions. So perform the good action of doing your duty, and in that way the world will benefit. This is why he's encouraging Arjun to fight the war. In the end of the 3rd chapter, Shri Krishna says, or towards the end, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvara. So Arjun, offer all of your actions to me. Do your karma, but while doing it, remember me. Like you belong to me and you're doing this karma to please me. You're doing these good actions because it will please me. See, the motivation, like the reason you're performing an action, that also stays in a deeper part of your mind. So if you think before you perform the action, I want to do this action because it's a good action, or it's my duty, it's my responsibility, and by performing this good karma, or by observing my dharma, I'm going to please Shri Krishna. That should be your reason for doing the good actions. Then your mind is also in Krishna. And nirashihi, he says, be nirash. Nirash means like a feeling of being like you could say like giving up, hopelessness. But he doesn't mean to become depressed. He's saying give up the hope of this world. Your happiness is not in this world. With that understanding, nirashir nirmamaha. Do not think of anything in this world as belonging to you. And do not think that anything in this world has your happiness. With this understanding, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa. Attach your mind to me instead of in the world and offer all of your good actions to me. So Arjun, yudhyasva, get up and fight this war. Vigatajvara, get rid of this emotional confusion you have. Get up and fight the war. So does Arjun get up and fight the war? No. If he did, we would have only had 3 chapters of the Gita, but we have 18. So at the end of the 3rd chapter, Arjuna asks another question. He says, Shri Krishna, why do we do wrong things even when we know it's wrong? So if you want to hear how Shri Krishna answers this question, you can come back tomorrow when we'll wrap up the 3rd chapter and also talk about the philosophy of Shri Krishna's avatar in the 4th chapter. Boliye Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki. We'll finish with some kirtan. During the kirtan, try to practice that form of meditation that I was explaining to you, where you close your eyes and visualize the form of Shri Krishna and feel yourself related to him, really, even more related than you are to any person in this world. Which means you have to make him yours, like make him your beloved, make him your friend in your mind. You kind of, a good way to start is maybe think of your best friend, and then seeing your best friend, put Krishna in his or her place, or put Radha in his or her place. Or think of your own son or daughter, and then put Krishna in their place, or put Radha in their place. Then you start out with the feeling of relationship to your family member, and then it transfers to Krishna. So you're visualizing him, and you're creating the feeling of relationship. This is what develops our attachment to him and purifies our mind. Do that while we do the chanting. Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe
गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे गोविंद 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 गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे,
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे,
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद, राधे गोविंद, राधे गोविंद, गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, 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 राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे,
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद,
राधे
गोविंद,
राधे
गोविंद, गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। 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 राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
ओ राधे गोविंद राधे।
ओ राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
ओ राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
गोविंद
राधे
गोविंद
राधे
गोविंद
राधे।
गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
ओ राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
ओ 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 राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
गोविंद
राधे
गोविंद
राधे
गोविंद
राधे।
गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
ओ राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे।
बोलिए अलबेली सरकार की
जय।
श्रीमद सद्गुरु सरकार की
जय।
जय जय श्री राधे। जय जय श्री राधे। जय जय श्री राधे। Prasad will be distributed now. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to talk to me after the shrine closes. I'll be here in the mandir or out in the lobby.